So today we're looking at something a little bit different than the other tutorials. We're looking at a jumbled mess. So how does that suit you? Hey, look at that. Look at how many pieces of things there are, and there's all kinds of things there. So how are we going to clean up this horrible mess? Like, what are we going to do? We've got HTML all over the place, and we've got to clean it up a little bit. So just to start out, I think I'm going to just say, let's try using the X key and see what happens when we use the X key. So I'll just do it once, and we'll get rid of this first thing that's selected there. It's selected with the mouse. I'm going to work mostly from the keyboard, but let's just go ahead and press X on it and see what happens to it. Oh, it's gone. Well, that's good. Well, we've got one down, but look, there's maybe what? Maybe 50 parts there or something. There's so many parts, so what do? We can move around with the keyboard like that. We could move, we could change parts with the mouse. We can move them around. That's not really helping. There's just more behind, isn't it? So what do we do here? What can we do? Well, I'll tell you one way. Okay, so let's try using Shift X and see what happens. Oh, okay. So I'll tell you what happened. All of the parts that were pink are now removed because I used Shift X. So I've removed the entire color group with just one keystroke, actually two, the Shift and then X, and then it's gone. So let's do it again. Let's see if we can get rid of the next one. Oh, well, that one's gone. And then let's try it one more time because now we're on the blue color group, Shift X. Oh, wow, now everything's gone. That didn't really help that much, did it? Because now I don't have any parts at all. And my goal really was to clean them up or give some kind of a demonstration there. So now it looks like everything's gone. So what we could do, if we really wanted to bring these parts back from this background layer, is we could use the P key on the keyboard. So let's try that. Let's try pressing the P key. See what happens. Oh, look. Oh, they start coming back one by one. Let's just hold it down. Oh, wow. Okay, so there we go. Now we're all the way back. Pretty much to the starting point. Look at that. I guess we didn't need undo at all, did we? The program doesn't have an undo feature. But that's essentially the same as undo, isn't it? So there you go. We could press... Let's do it again. Shift X. Oh, look, all the blue parts are gone. Well, that's not too bad. Might be able to work with part of this. Let's do it again. Shift X. Okay, all the gray parts are gone. Shift X, and all the pink parts are completely gone. Now, there's a little bit of a faster way to do this. There's a way to do it from the menu over here, so I'll just direct you to that first, which is the same as another way to do it from the keyboard. So you can see all the parts ended up down here in the phantom layer, which is this background layer which you can still visually see. So if I use that button right there and I click it, they come right back out. And now if I click it again, they go right back in. So that's a really important feature that we have here. So now I'll tell you how to do the exact same thing from the keyboard. So I'll close that down, get rid of the menu using backtick or tilde. And now I'll tell you that to do the exact same move, you can use the backspace key. There you go, it's gone. And it's all back. How about that, eh? And now, yep, you can do it. Still works, still good, okay, good. And if I hold down the X key, let's try holding down the X key and see what happens. Oh, look. We're just deleting everything in document order, aren't we? Oh, okay, so they're all gone. And now let's use backspace again. Well, look at that, they're all back. Isn't that good? So that's the basic buffer for the buffer. I'm calling it a buffer. So when it's back there and there, it's essentially not entirely unlike a buffer, where you're holding on to that. The things that are in there, if I were to save the document right now, it would be empty because there's nothing in it. I can see that back there, but it's not in the document. But when I push backspace, it is in the document, and all of those empty rectangles and then the words jumbled messy document would be in my saved document. So that's important to know, that when things are back there in that layer, you can see them a little bit. When I press, space, I can still see them, because an active view, the live view, I can still see them. But they're not going to be part of the finished document if I save it. So yeah, space bar, holding it down, goes like that, and we basically have access to the live document. And then, again, I guess I'll give a little bit more info. So if I use the Enter key, I can do the same thing, only it'll stay that way. So now I can move around in the document. The space bar doesn't do that anymore, right? It just does what it normally would do in the browser. And then the only way to get back out of this is to use the Escape key. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, the Escape key. Now I'm back into drafting mode, where I can work again. I'm no longer in the live view. Do it one more time. I push Enter. Okay, now I push Escape. Okay, so as long as that's clear, and then I could use the space bar just to toggle it on and off while I'm working, which is very convenient. So let's get everything back. Let's use the backspace key just to get everything back out of that layer. Oh, look, there's a bit of a coloration issue. I haven't been able to get rid of that yet. Still working on it. So we have that there. So there are another two set of keys. So the set of keys that we've discussed just now are X and P, and they put them into the phantom layer buffer, or the XP buffer, let's call it. Just to be simple, we'll call it by the keys that you need to use to operate it. So there's another buffer that we can also use, and it's the RU buffer. So it works almost identically to this, very close, other than the difference that you can't see it, but it is in there. So let's try it. I'm going to use the R key, and you can see, actually you can't see where those parts went, can you? But they are in there. So to get them back from the RU buffer, I'm going to use the U key. And out they come. I'm going to just hold it down. Well, that was good. A lot faster. And back they come out. And now you see it's jumbled it around a little bit because I've deleted it in document order and then I've returned it in reverse document order, because both of these buffers are last in, first out. So there's a lot of interplay between these buffers, last in, first out. So if I've deleted this one with R, or removed it with R, and then I use U, it'll be the first one to come back out. So the last one I put in there is the first one to come out. See, so I've gotten rid of a few things, not everything, but now that one comes first, then comes the next one, then the next one, in exactly the order that I removed them. They'll be returned. So it's reversed, basically. And I think that's fairly clear, that there shouldn't be any trouble understanding that. So then we have, okay, the backspace key, okay, puts it into the XP buffer, puts everything in at the same time. And now, the little bit tricky part, we get rid of everything with R, let's say. Okay, it's not gone, it's just in the RU buffer. Now, the thing that's going to bring a lot more interest to this, that we have two buffers, and then we have the document itself, which could be the third buffer. So now, to switch the RU buffer with the XP buffer, we will use Shift Backspace. Oh, and look there. So we can change it back out. We're flipping it back into the RU buffer. Now we can flip it so it'll come back into the XP buffer. And there you go. So we have a full interchange between our different buffers, including the one that will end up in the document by pressing backspace. Now all of that you can see now will end up in the document. And that's a very important thing to know. So we can put it back there. We can use Shift backspace, and it's now in the RU buffer. So if we use U, it'll start coming back out exactly as we expect. Now if we use X, just hold it down, why not? Get rid of it. Oh, look at that, we've got a bunch of X's on the screen, very cinematic. And now it's back there in the XP buffer. And then we can put it back into the RU buffer, we can put it back into this one. So we've got a really nice interplay between those things. Oh, look at all those letters just coming up. So this is a really good thing. Oh, look, and there we go. So that's what our document would look like. It wouldn't have those outlines, but it would have everything else. You actually wouldn't be able to see very much other than just the lettering if we saved it right now or opened it. So that's an interesting thing right there. So the next thing that I'm going to point out is, let's try the Y key. So right now I'm on that part over there. I'm on this part here. If I use the Y key, well, what happens? Let's try it. Everything's gone. Where did it go? And the answer is that we've isolated it. We've isolated this one part. And so now I can change this part without having all of the confusing stuff from all of that all over the screen, which is very confusing to look at. It's not a good working condition to have things all over the screen unless you intentionally had them that way. So, like I did for the purpose of this tutorial. But now we can press Y again. And oh look, everything comes back. Well, that's good. And then let's try using, let's try it again. Y isolates a single part so that we can focus on that one part. Pressing Y the second time, so it's like a toggle switch. Now let's try using Shift Y. Oh look, that's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because we've isolated the color group. Instead of isolating the single one, we've isolated the entire color group. So the gray color group is visible, while the other two color groups, blue and pink, are no longer visible at all. They're in another special buffer, but it's not the XP buffer, it's not the RU buffer, they're in another special buffer. And so there's a lot of interplay here between this system, where we can isolate parts, and the other one where we can put them into the other ones where we can put them into the XP or RU buffers. So there's a lot of interplay there. And then there's another key that I'm going to point out, and it's what is it? It's either the vertical bar key or it's the I think it's a backslash. So let's try it. Let's try backslash. Oh, what's happening? Doesn't look like very much is happening at all, does it? But what I'll tell you is that we're now cycling between the three color groups. We don't need to press Shift to use that key. It's just above the Enter key. It's below the backspace key. That key right there. It has a backslash and a vertical bar on the key. That's the key we're going to use. It's cycling between the color groups. There are only three, so it only cycles in the same direction. Doesn't have to cycle back and forth. And so now, so now we're on blue. So now let's try Y. Okay, so we're isolating just this one part. Now let's try Shift Y, and we'll isolate the entire blue color group. Well, look at that. It really does look a lot cleaner now, a lot more organized, or easier to organize, now that I'm able to isolate just the one group there. So let's see if we can bring everything back. We'll use Shift Y, bring everything back. Oh, and look. You're just isolating inside of the blue group until you use Shift Y again, and then it all comes back. So now let's see what that pink group looked like. I'm interested to see what it looked like. Oh, it's not that bad at all. Well, look at that one. So we've got it separated out pretty good when we do that. So let's see here. What do we have to do really to clean this up? Not much, right? It might just be able to move them around a little bit. Okay, let's move that one over there. The next one, I don't know, maybe that one needs to be somewhere down here. Oh, there's some behind there. Oh, wow. There are so many. Wow. You know what? I'm going to get rid of that one. Put in the XP buffer. So many. I'll use the mouse. That might help. There we go. Oh, it's a good thing the mouse works really well too. Let's move them around. Let's just try to get some separation. We can even see how many we've got there. Wow. Okay. So now let's bring that one back. Okay, great. And we can see it's not so bad anymore. It's not such a disaster. And well, let's isolate that one. Well, that one's not too bad. So you can see how you might go about cleaning something up or messing something up really quickly. And then let's say we had all of that there. So let's see, bring it all back. I can use Shift X, puts it all into the background. So now if I had just that gray one in the phantom layer in the background that we could see, and then I use backspace, we'll see what happens. Ah, it's flipped, you see? So now I'm showing the gray that was in there, and what was in the visible layer went into the phantom layer. You see? So I flipped it. See that? So that's a really good thing too. So now, how do I get everything back together again? Well, there's more than one way, but you can do Shift X. You can delete it and then flip it back out. That's one way. And then I just to be thorough, we'll do it with R as well. Shift R is going to get rid of that whole group. Shift R is going to get rid of that whole group. And Shift R is going to get rid of that whole group. So you see, that's very much the same as what Shift X was doing, other than we cannot see it in the buffer. And so now when I use the backspace key, we'll see that, oh, Shift backspace, sorry. Oh, there it is. Look at that. And it's all back. And now I'll use the backspace key and bring us right back up to our jumbled mess. And that seems like a pretty good spot to stop this tutorial in its tracks. We've seen what we can do, and there you have it. A jumbled mess, or are you just a few keys away from sorting it all out? Well done. Tutorial over.